Is chaos lurking around the corner in championship week?
You are Locked On College Football, smothered and covered, with your host, Barrett Sallee. Your one-stop shop for everything college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It is championship week, one of the best weeks of the season. Thank you for checking the show out. My name is Barrett Sallee. You can follow me on all the social media channels at Barrett Sallee. 2 R's, 2 T's, 2 L's, and 2 E's. Thank you for making this your first listen. This show brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you make a $5 bet and you win it, you'll get $150 in bonus bets from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We're going to get sentimental today at the end of the show, but before we do that, we don't have Friday 5 picks because let's be honest, the Power 4 games are really all you care about on Saturday. Now, of course, Friday there is UNLV versus Boise State, which essentially is a play-in game to the college football playoff. We'll talk about that later in the show as well. But until we do, it is time to talk about the Power 4. And we're going to start off in Charlotte. I think a lot of us before the season thought, you know what? The ACC Championship game, it might be okay. It might not. Well, now it means everything. Why does it mean everything? Because obviously SMU can cap off a fantastic season, a storybook season with a college football playoff appearance and a first-round bye. And, of course, mayhem, like mayhem in those Allstate commercials, is lurking in the parking lot at Bank of America Stadium. And that is, of course, Clemson. Usually Clemson is the big dog, but now it is the chaos agent. They win, they're in. Then they create chaos. Alabama, SMU will be the discussion. If they lose, they're out, and we really won't have a lot to worry about. There will be no mayhem. None whatsoever. If you've listened to this show, you know I have bought into SMU even before the season started. I said that, you know what, that schedule sets up well, and they are loaded enough offensively where they might be that team that flirts with the ACC Championship Game and thus flirts with the college football playoff. Well, they ain't flirting. They're the hot girl at the bar right now. And I think they continue their dream season. Now, before the season, I didn't think it was Kevin Jennings. I thought it was Preston Stone who would do it, but potato, whatever. I think this is simple. I mean, it's a simplistic analysis of the game, but I think it does come down to the quarterback. And I've tried to buy in over and over and over to Cade Klubnik. He has proved me wrong. He has proved me right. It's like this never-ending carousel. Well, I think right now, what you're going to ask, what Dabo's going to ask of Cade Klubnik is that he be a difference maker. He be a guy who can go toe-to-toe with an SMU offense that I think can put up 30 against anybody, including this Clemson defense. So I don't see Cade Klubnik being able to do that. To me, that offense has been so scattershot all year long. Don't get me wrong. I love the weapons individually. And I do think moving forward, Clemson's going to get to a spot where, yeah, it's essentially battling for a playoff every single season. Well, I mean, that's where they are now. It took a little bit of a circuitous route to get there, but that's where they are right now. But no mayhem. No All-State dude. Speaking of which, the All-State dude's like 60. He looks younger than I am, and I'm 44. Seriously, go look him up. He is in the first John Wick? Yeah, the first John Wick. The All-State guy, man, I don't know what he's doing to prevent aging, but good on him. He will not be at Bank of America Stadium. SMU minus the 2 and the hook. The game that I will be at, the SEC Championship Game. It's only for seeding, which again, I told y'all, seeding and buys, they're not as exciting as we thought they'd be. And this is a perfect example because what did we get in this game last year? Undefeated Georgia potentially being knocked out, and they were knocked out. This doesn't mean as much in terms of the college football playoff, but I will tell you this, it does mean a ton for both of those teams and both of those coaches. I think before the season, you can point to the SEC Championship game. You can point to this as the peak because the playoff is sort of this mythical creature, right? The SEC Championship game is the one that matters most. Everybody's pointing to this. It's the only thing that gets discussed in fall camp because it's tangible. It's there. You know the date. You know the time. You know the building. After that, they tell you where to go. Teams will just be like, well, I don't care. Tell us where to go. We're good. But the passion is there. The ability to avenge a loss is not there for Texas. I'm floored that Texas is actually a favorite in this game. Carson Beck has gotten better. The running back room at Georgia has become more diverse. They've stopped relying on Trevor Etienne and realized that, you know what, maybe he is just a supplemental running back, and the injury that he's fighting through right now maybe is not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal. So take the Bulldogs. I think what happened last time is going to be what happens this time. I think they're going to see a Texas offensive line that is beat up. Now, we don't know specifically what is up with Kelvin Banks. Obviously, he went out of the Texas A&M game with an injury. As of Thursday night, he is listed as questionable on the updated injury report. Everybody else for Texas has been out for a while. The ones that sort of jump out to me are Trevor Etienne, Branson Robinson, Chauncey Bowens, and Christian Miller are questionable. Kelvin Banks is a big deal. What do we see? How did Georgia beat Texas last go round? They absolutely annihilated that offensive line. Lit them up like a Christmas tree. That's the only reason they won. The offense was pretty bad. Not pretty bad, very bad. Carson Beck threw 3 picks. The running game really didn't get going. Now, I know Trevor Etienne found the end zone a lot, but that was it. I mean, so the offense didn't do an awful lot. But Michael Williams, man, that was his. I mean, Javon, they were just all over the place. I think that's going to continue. They're going to put Quinn Ewers, who still is, I would imagine, he's not on the injury report, but still an ankle injury like that's going to linger a little bit. You might have to use Arch Manning as a runner like we saw early in the Texas A&M game last week. That's too many questions. Those are too many questions on both sides of the ball. So I will take Georgia plus 2.5. Grab those points, but you won't need them because the Bulldogs are winning that one outright, and they're winning it by more than a touchdown. This could be a double-digit victory, another double-digit victory for the Georgia Bulldogs over those Texas Longhorns. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we will hit the other 2 Power 4 games. It's college football smothered and covered. And of course, we are powered by the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is brought to you by our good friends at Mint Mobile. Look, I love a great deal as much as the next guy. Look, I've got a wife, 2 kids, mortgage, car pay. I got a lot going on over here. So I'm looking for deals as much as I can. I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals, though, because that seems painful. It hurts. Then I go to the hospital for medical bills. Don't want to do that. So there's no hoops. There's no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get $15 wireless per month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. Let me tell you, the longest part of the process was actually canceling my service with my other provider. To get started, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. There, you'll see that right now, all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. That's mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower than 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes and fees restrictions apply. So see mintmobile.com for further details. We are going to hit the other two games. Penn State and Oregon. Penn State and Oregon. Not many people peg this as the Big Ten championship. Almost everybody, like Oregon, Ohio State, Oregon, Ohio State. And look, I get it. That seemed like the obvious choice. But here we are with Penn State. Penn State, if you listened to the show yesterday, watched the show yesterday, you heard me go on a rant about James Franklin, how this is his time to shine. This is a perfect opportunity for him to shed the overrated label, the label that he can't win a big game. And he's not going to do it. He's not going to do it. I love Penn State's defense. And look, I love the way they've evolved offensively. They're a nice offensive team. I'm going to steal a line from my good friend Wes Durham at SiriusXM, legendary broadcaster. He's also the play-by-play man of the Atlanta Falcons. When he's talking about Tyler Algier, he's talking about a running back, and this is the quote he uses, a bowling ball with razor blades attached to him. Well, Oregon is a bowling ball with razor blades attached to it. When they hit that gas pedal, you can't stop them. I don't care how good your defense is. You can't stop them. In every aspect of that game, they are better. They are better in every aspect of the game. Stats might not bear it out in every single statistical category. They're better on both lines of scrimmage. They have a better rushing attack with a quarterback aspect. Trust me, I love Allen and I love Singleton for Penn State. They're a more diverse rushing attack, the Ducks are. Obviously, passing, Dylan Gabriel has the edge on Drew Aller. And I think they have the coaching edge as well. I mean, I've loved Dan Lanning since he was down here in Georgia as an assistant. The guy knows how to get his team motivated. The guy knows how to build a roster. And the guy knows when to coach and when to step back and let his assistants take control. I'm floored, honestly, that this is only a 3.5-point spread. This is, to me, is a 10-point game for the Oregon Ducks. Do you trust James Franklin in a situation where he might be late in a game to make the proper decisions, to decide to go for it on fourth, to manage the clock properly? I don't. Now, I wouldn't have last year with Dan Lanning. Now I do. So give me the Ducks. Give them to me big. -3.5. We can't tell you what to bet on. I can't sit here and tell you, hey, you know what? You should lay 3.5. You have to do it. I think that's illegal. But you know what? It's probably a good idea to lay those 3.5 points, because that's a double-digit win. That's a double-digit point win. All right. The big one, noon Eastern. Now, this is the one that I think, I was asked, Trey Wallace and I are colleagues over at Outkick, and I was on his show yesterday, and we got to talking about what games were we most excited for. And, for me, it's the SEC Championship game because I'm going, he's going as well. But I have no idea what's going to happen in Arizona State, Iowa State. I think that, to me, if we're talking about the perfect appetizer to lead in to Selection Sunday, that's it. We've seen crazy things happen in the Big 12 championship game before. If you recall, Oklahoma State was literally 1 inch on a dive to the pylon away from making the playoff 2 years ago. 2 years ago? 3 years ago. Whenever it was. Beat Baylor. We've seen all kinds of chaos happen in that game. We've seen Texas randomly get an extra second on a ball that hits a rail on a field level sweep at Jerry World. That's the thing that happened before they joined the SEC, of course. We're going to see that kind of chaos again. Kenny Dillingham's going to find a way to pull through, and he's going to find a way to cover those 2 points. Am I sold on that? No. Could you talk me out of that? Absolutely, you can, especially with Rocco Becht on the other side. But I trust Cam Scatterbo. I trust Sam Leavitt enough because that offense is ultra dynamic. They can do a lot of different things, and they can get, what I love is that they haven't done it a ton, but they can get Scatterbo outside as a receiver as well. They are multidimensional and very creative with how they roll. Very creative with how they roll. I think they get the job done. I think they move into the college football playoff. And here's the thing. This is a little bit of chaos. I think they get the 4 seed. I think they get the 4 seed as the Big 12 champ. Why? Because tonight, I think UNLV gets the job done, upsets Boise State, and UNLV slides in as the group of 5 champion into that 12 spot. I looking at the rankings, 15th maybe is where they're going to be, 16th. But they slide in as the 5th conference champion with a big win over Boise State. Look, I love UNLV. I mean, the Matthew Sluka stuff seems like it's 5 years ago instead of 2 months ago. Taj Cummins has been awesome at quarterback. Barry Odom has turned that program around in a way that I've always said that UNLV is a sleeping giant. Now we're kind of seeing why. They got the right coach. They've got players coming in. They've got this is the big thing. They've got the right NIL program for what Las Vegas can provide. Plus, they've got just a phenomenal staff. And you go back and watch Boise State. I love Ashton Jeanty. I know he's the guy that the belle of the ball. But if you go back and watch how Boise State has played in big games, or even smaller games like the Wyoming game, I feel like they've become too Ashton Jeanty centric. I feel like maybe it's because that's all they got. Maybe it's because they want to get him a Heisman Trophy and they don't necessarily know how to handle it. I don't know what the deal is with them, but I think this is going to be one of those cases where you might see a little mismanagement from the staff. And maybe they put Ashton Jeanty in a situation where he is the only person that can get the job done. And then when they are forced to maybe come off of him a little bit, they don't know how to do it. That's what's happened the last few games. When they have struggled, that's exactly what's happened. They've come off of him a little bit and they don't know what to do. Meanwhile, UNLV, I think, is well-rounded and ready to move into the college football playoff. And I'm not saying this because Barry Odom has been on this show. I like Barry Odom as a coach. I like him as a person. And you're going to see him provide a little chaos in the college football playoff. We'll take a break. When we come back, I'll get sentimental a little bit. I'll get sentimental. How? You'll find out next. It's College Football Smothered and Covered. And of course, we are powered by the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel, look, I've been on FanDuel for a long time. When they were just daily fantasy, I was all over them. Now, of course, as more states have legalized sports betting, FanDuel has evolved into the monster in the industry, America's #1 sportsbook. And they've got a deal for you because right now, if you bet $5, your first bet, if you start off with a $5 bet and you win it, they'll give you $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. Now, how much would you love that? Going into the college football playoff, you have all that money to spread around to whatever game you want. But here's the thing. If you use it tonight, you can use it tomorrow through all of championship weekend. Why? Because it gives you everything you need right there on the app. Stats, play-by-play, Everything there is right there on the app. So let's say you want to bet on Mountain West tonight. Maybe Ashton Genty is, you're thinking he's not going to go over that second half 85-yard mark. You can bet the under during the game with all the information right there where you placed your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com today. Again, $5. If you win it, you get $150 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. I am going to get sentimental. Talked about it earlier in the show, how the SEC Championship Game is sort of the pinnacle, right? How all of the coaches in that league, they point to it. It's the only tangible thing. It's the only game you can see in terms of when it is, where it is, what it means. You know everything about it. And beyond that, they'll just tell you where to go. I've talked to a lot of the coaches. That's all they care about. It's what you point to. In August, Atlanta. And even now with Kirby and Sark, they know how big this is. They've coached in this. Sark has with Alabama as an assistant. They understand the magnitude of it because it feels like a Super Bowl. Maybe not as much as it did in the Georgia Dome, because Mercedes-Benz Stadium is a horrid arena. Thanks, Arthur Blank. You ruined one of the best stadiums in the world and took it down to make it a yard. RIP Georgia Dome. Josh Pate knows how I feel about that. But let me tell you, this is my 23rd SEC championship game. 23. I'm 44. This is my 23rd. That's how many times I've been there. And it's personal to me because when I started my career, all right, I got out of college in 2002. I went to work for Fox Sports Net. Now, we didn't have the game, but we were down there all the time. And even if I didn't cover it for Fox, which not every year I did, I volunteered to help media relations. Tammy, who's still there, Chuck Dunlap, who's still there, helped those guys just because I loved it. Just because, hey, you know what? Whether I'm in the press box, passing out papers on the field, passing out stats to photography, like whatever it is, it just feels different. And I will continue to do that. Now, I've said this, I've told the SEC office this, I've told friends this. If there's ever a time where I am not in this business, I will still go volunteer at that building, at that event, because you feel the passion. It's what college football is all about. I know there's this push against neutral site games, and I get it. I am on board with that for regular season games. And maybe like for conference championship games outside of the SEC, okay, maybe I could get on board, although I do like that the other Power 4 conferences are entrenched and you kind of get the same diet version of the vibe you have right now. But the SEC championship game is what it's all about. Everything's on the line. Everything is on the line. Yes. Because again, you don't know what's happening afterwards. You get about 50-50 in there. The bands are still there as opposed to the nonsense they blare during Falcons games. And it feels like a Super Bowl. Actually, you know what? It doesn't feel like a Super Bowl. It feels bigger than a Super Bowl because Super Bowl is all corporate now. It's what the Super Bowl should be. Passion, fan bases that are split, actual fans of those teams as opposed to corporations. So I just want you guys to know that whatever we provide from the SEC championship game in terms of content, whether it be here or on Outkick or what we're doing on SiriusXM, Tom and I on Sunday morning, it does hold a special place for me. And that will continue to be the case really for the rest of my life. I love it. Hey, speaking of the SEC championship game, if you want some insider information, become a College Football Smothered and Covered insider. Join the subtext group. It's right there below in the description, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, all those places. You can join it right there. We can text each other You can tell me how stupid I am in the middle of the game, and I'll text you right back. It'll be fun. Make sure you subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, all that stuff for this show, because that's how we get this out to the masses. SEC Championship game from me tomorrow. We'll wrap things up after everything gets settled after the Big Ten Championship game and ACC Championship game tomorrow night. Until then, have a great day. Have a great night with some of the championship games that will happen on Friday night. And we will talk to you tomorrow when things might be set in stone.